my excitement for everything that she was talking about, not just the evidence, but the excitement, the spillover, the contagion. You all know that if we can get students excited about learning, and the learning and that spark of creativity, um, everything that she was talking about, I was like, that is what we want. We want that creativity. We want the inquiry. We want all of those things. And then how can we connect that back to standards? And so I was like, bottle that up, bring that to us. We want that in Kentucky. And we want it again related directly back to our standards, but we want this to come alive in every classroom that's represented in everyone that's on this session tonight. And so we started talking, and we made a plan because that's what all great teachers do. We make a plan. And so today with us, we have what I am so excited about, the first of many sessions with Kid Museum. And I think once you see what's going to transpire, what's going to happen in these sessions, you are going to take this little project, or many of these little projects, and you're going to be able to have this same level of excitement that I walked away with in Buffalo, and you're going to be able to replicate that in your classrooms. And you'll see why I'm so excited. You'll see why my box is all ready to make. So I hope that you're ready for this whole maker space. And I'm going to just share their little tagline that I loved. I wrote this down because this is what we want in each one of our classrooms. I know that's the same for each one of you. And it's explore the world and invent the future. So with that, I'm going to introduce our two guests with us. And again, they will be with us several times throughout the next few months. I am so excited for the learning that they're going to bring with us today. But today we have Miss Becky and Miss Jessica from Kid Museum. Ladies, thank you all so much for being with us. And I'm going to turn this over to you and make sure you all have screen share and anything else that you all may need.
Screen sharing is great. Thank you, Wendy. That was such a lovely introduction. I am so excited to be with y'all today. I'm Becky Zizel, and I am one of our senior managers here at Kid Museum. Before I came here, I was a classroom teacher for about 11 years, and then have spent another 10 writing curriculum and coaching teachers and working with students and making things. And so just like Wendy said, this is the first in kind of a series of workshops, and all of them will be hands-on in different ways. And the goal today is to kind of think like, what is maker learning and why would you want to integrate it into your classrooms? And so I'm Becky, and then with me I have my colleague Jessica, who is going to help us kind of answer all your questions in the chat and answer anything you guys need and be here as any help. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, raise your hand, interrupt, whatever you need. And so I am going to share my screen now. Let's see. So for those of you who don't know us, Kid Museum is an educational nonprofit that is on a mission to equip the youth of today with the skills that they need to invent the future. And we are located in Bethesda, Maryland, which is just outside of Washington, D.C. I live in Washington, D.C. It's probably like 20 minutes out. So if you guys are ever in the area, we would love for you to come visit us. We work with students and teachers in pretty much every way imaginable. We have field trips during the week. We have families come on the weekends. We do workshops. We do after school. We do a lot of summer camp. And our goal is to help kids learn new skills and then think how they can use those to be explorers and innovators and really take on tomorrow. And so we're going to dive into that later, but the skills that we're going to think about today are using common materials that you guys can all get for free or cheap in your classroom and use them to do some design challenges. Other sessions that we'll do, other times we're going to do some coding and some other tech and some other kind of building. So I will make sure you guys get emails ahead of time with whatever you need. So the first thing I want to do is something called a memorable making experience. And so I want each of you to think to yourself of a memorable making experience that you've had. And I'll tell you mine. Like I learned to code and that was amazing. I love to use the wood shop, but my memorable making experience was my children are 3 years and 2 days apart. And so their birthdays are like 2 days apart from each other in the year. And I decided that when my son was 1, I was going to make them each their own birthday cake. And I was going to learn how to decorate a cake. And I decided this at like 8 p.m. the night before their birthday celebration. And so I like did all the math on how much buttercream I would need. And I made all the buttercream and I like watched the YouTube videos on how to make flowers. And my son wanted a Barbie cake. So I learned how to make like a Barbie skirt. And I ran out of buttercream at about midnight and sent my husband to the store to go buy more buttercream. And so I made these 2 cakes. I made an animal cake and I made a Barbie cake for my kids. And for me, that was memorable because I had to put a lot of skills to play and I had to really seek out the resources I needed to make these, I'm not going to call them excellent, I'm going to call them good enough cakes for my kids' birthdays. So everyone take a minute. Making could be building something. It could be coding. It could be gardening. It could be cooking. What's an experience you have had in your life that is memorable to you where you made something? And then once you've thought of that, why? Why did you choose that experience? Why was it memorable for you? What made it stand out in your head? For me, it was that I had to do all this research and find these videos to help me learn how to make. And then if you are able to get to the chat, I know some of you guys are in transit, I want you guys to put in the chat, you had an experience that was meaningful for your life. Why do you think that making things could be meaningful way for your students to learn different things? So I see people teaching to crochet, candy making. Ooh, I want to learn how to make candy. Come visit me. Learning to make homemade biscuits. So why were these memorable? Why are you thinking about them? And if it makes it personal to you, yeah, that's great. You can take pride in what you did, leaving your comfort zone, being engaging. I see so many things, proud, and so it really makes an impression on you. Yeah. Oh, you guys are amazing. Accomplishment memories. Yeah, that satisfaction, that personal connection to what you did really helped you remember it and carrying it into the future. And so we at Kid Museum are all about making and integrating it into your standards, into your content, so that your students can make these memories and feel proud and feel happy, and then connect that to the content in your class. And so making really builds student agency and it empowers students to participate and direct their own learning. It helps them realize their potential change. I was working with a 6th grader not long ago, and they were designing a backpack for another student in their class. And the kid said, Becky, I've never actually thought about what other people need. I only ever think about what I want. And so they had this moment where they were like, oh, this other kid wanted something different in a backpack than they would want. And they had to change their ideas based on what other people thought. And then one of the things that I think is most important for you, it really builds the connections between a skill and a content area, and it makes it personally meaningful. Jessica and I have seen thousands of times a kid who is a stereotypical not great kid in class do a project, make a circuit, make something out of cardboard, and they are so proud of it. They have that moment of accomplishment that they really did it, and it really helps them connect to the content that they're applying it to. And so we hope that you guys will see that today. So at Kid Museum, we have something called the mind of the maker, and this is how we see the world. We think that it's the world, our values, our curiosity, creativity, collaboration, compassion, and what we want to do is foster that mindset in students that we serve, and we want them to become empathetic and persistent and problem solvers and change makers. And so all the activities that we do try to incorporate this mind of a maker, and we're going to come back to this after your activity today and see where you think that you exercise some of these attributes. So Wendy talked about gathering materials before you got here. We are actually going to build today. And if you did not have time to gather anything, if you have paper and tape, you're stellar. I want you guys to all take a minute and see what you have around you. If you have paper, if you have pencil, I tried to get you guys to get one of the things in each of these categories, and you're going to need a little space to make something because we're about to dive into the actual building part of today. So take a minute, gather your materials, make a little space. If you're in your classroom, I'm sure you've got lots of stuff. If you're not, literally a piece of paper and some tape would be great. If you have some cardboard, a cereal box, a soda box, index cards work beautifully. You'd be amazed what you can build out of a pencil and some paper. I'm going to give you guys all a minute And if anyone has questions about any of that, please let me know. I'm going to pause so everyone can kind of get ready. Okay. If you need more time, don't stress. You'll have more time to gather stuff in a minute. What we're going to do is an activity that is designed to get you some hands-on experience with maker learning and to think about how you can use common materials in your classroom. When I was a classroom teacher, I had zero budget for buying things, and cardboard is something that every school has in such large quantity. Make friends with your cafeteria people, and they can give you all the cardboard boxes all the food comes in. And kids can build amazing things out of cardboard, some tape, and like pencils, like I said. But other stuff is great too. I really like the dowels that you make barbecue skewers because they're 100 for like $1. And so that's a really affordable material for the classroom. But we're going to talk about getting some hands-on experience. And you guys are all history and social studies teachers. Am I right about that? Or do we have some art teachers here too? Wendy and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong. These are mostly history and social. We have some librarians here
Yeah, and
and
you
some
also
reading
maybe have some
teachers.
ELA
Oh,
mixed
beautiful.
in there, some English language art, some of those. Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna give some examples and you guys are gonna have to then extrapolate and think about how you relate it to your content area. But I was looking through the Kentucky history standards and ELA standards and reading standards. And I noticed that grade kindergarten through high school all had some economic standards. They talked about supply and demand, they talked about the cost of items changing and people making complex economic decisions. And some of the ELA standards were about taking an experience and using that and writing firsthand writing and reflections. And so I want us to do an activity where we're going to simulate an economic system. And so if we were in person together, I would give you guys a punch card, like the orange cards you guys can see in this picture. And I would have some materials that I put at different prices. How did I decide the prices? I did it randomly based on what I had in my classroom that day. But so our economic system is going to be that you have to use this punch card to buy items. And so what you can do is adjust the prompt and the materials to fit the age of your students. If you're a kindergarten teacher, there's a kindergarten standard talking about differentiating between needs and wants. And if you're a fifth grade teacher, there's supply and demand and how the cost of items changes based on supply and demand. And that's a seventh grade standard too as well. And so this is an activity where we are going to use materials like you see on the screen for a design challenge. And then afterwards, we're going to talk about how this simulated an economic system. So one of the materials I love the most, I'm gonna see if I can see myself. This is cardboard. It's really easy. And when you look at cardboard, it has lines in it. And so I like using cardboard with students who can use scissors. If you have younger kids or if you're in the library and don't have cardboard, chipboard is a great material. It is like soda box, cereal box material. And the reason I like chipboard is because you can cut it with those little kid scissors that aren't actually sharp in any way. They actually cut through chipboard really easily. They're both types of cardboard. And you can build a lot with it. And like I said, free, easy material to get. And so we don't gonna have a punch card today because you guys are virtual. And so you're gonna have to track your own material loose, but pretend that you have 10 punches to spend. And so what I'm gonna have you guys do is design an invention that'll solve the problem. I need to protect myself from the rain. Okay? And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you guys the cost of all your materials. And you're gonna take a minute on some paper and design an invention that'll protect yourself from the rain. But I want you guys to remember, this is gonna be a rapid design challenge. And that is something I remind students of all the time, because what that means is we are not looking for perfection. I am looking for you to actually physically make something that shows your idea. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't even have to work. It can be tiny, it can be big, but something to protect yourself from the rain. And I'm gonna put the materials up and I'm gonna give you guys like 3 to 5 minutes to design. That means like draw a picture of what you wanna build. And you're gonna have to see, based on what materials you have, what you wanna spend on building. So here is my price list. Strong materials, you get 1 piece for 2 punches. So that's paper, cardboard, anything like that. Anything stick-like, a pencil, a chopstick, anything that's tape-like, you get 1 piece for 1 punch. And then if you have string or pipe cleaners or rubber bands or paper clips, you get 2 of those things for 1 punch. So you guys, that's call it 8 punches. Everybody's going to get 8 punches. So I'm going to pause now because I think the best way for you guys to understand how making can impact your kids is for you to do it. And I know that's not always what happens in PD. So get ready. I want everyone to actually design something to protect yourself from the rain. It can be silly, it can be fun, or it can be something every day. It's up to you. So I'm going to stop talking. If you have questions, you're going to put them in the chat. And we're going to take about 3 minutes to 5 minutes to design and think about what materials you want to use. And then we're going to pause and come back together. Questions? All right, I love it. Jump on in, start designing. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Mute myself so y'all don't have to hear me drawing. Put on some music. And remember, I'm going to say you guys get between 8 and 10 punches. So as you're thinking about it, I'm going to put mine up to the screen so you guys can see. I labeled that I'm going to need 3 pieces of cardboard, which is 6 punches. So I'm trying to figure out, pretending I have an actual punch card and we're together. Yes, each piece of tape is a punch, but I'm gonna let you interpret what a piece of tape means, best based on your own ability. Yes, Hannah, that is what I was going for. If you get one large piece of tape, you can cut it into sections. I support that decision. So imagine if you had kids, you'd be up there kind of doling these things out. Can you use the tape dispenser itself? I love that solution. Go for it. I dig it. Be creative. Can you use the table that you're working on? No one's going to stop you. I mean, your principal might stop you, but like no one on my end is going to stop you. Okay, 1 more minute for your designing and deciding on your materials. And somebody asked privately to me, can they come back for more materials and not use all your punches? That is a super smart thing to think about. Can you come back for more materials? Yes. So if you want to use 5 punches now and save 5 for when you're building, go for it. In fact, I always encourage students to do that because otherwise they get ridiculous things that they don't want. Can you use a hole punch? Yes, I did not include tools in my economic system, but you can use a hole punch. You can use a pencil to stab a hole. You can use scissors. I will say all tools are free. You already own them. Okay. It's okay if you're not done planning. I want everyone to pause. And I want to know if there are any volunteers who are willing to hold up their design that they have started designing up to their screen so that we can see a few ideas to build off of. So if you're willing to, so Kim, I don't know, see if I can, I don't know if we can spotlight people, so that's okay. So you can see a couple people. Kim, that was beautiful. I saw it. That looked good. Trying to scroll through people. There's a lot of you guys here. Ooh, I see Callie Harris. Oh, yours looks exactly like mine. Ooh, Dee started building. Good for you. I love it. Okay, I see some beautiful hat-like things. Okay, so now what I want you guys to do is start actually building. Pretend you're a child. Actually build what you want to build to protect yourself from the rain. I'm going to give you guys, honestly, like 10 or 15 minutes to actually build. There might be a little twist in the middle. Let's get ready and see. But what I want you guys to do is actually build your device to protect you from the rain. And remember, you're just building a prototype. It's just supposed to show your idea. Cardboard is not going to protect you from the rain, and that's okay. You can pretend your cardboard is, I don't know, metal or something else, or plastic, if you have plastic bins. It's just supposed to show our ideas. It's not going to be perfect. So I want to see some actual building. And if you guys need any help or any ideas, please let me and Jessica know. This is much easier when we are with you, I can see. But I see Rachel dove right in. I see lots of people moving. I see heads. I see Rhonda folding things. If you don't actually have any materials with you and all you have is paper, don't forget, paper is a really strong material. You can bend it, you can fold it. I was doing origami this morning with middle schoolers, wrap it around a pencil and make it strong. You can do lots of things with paper, or you can just continue sketching as you want. But you guys are going to have until we're going to call it 4:35, maybe 4:40. I'll see if I extend it, to actually build your invention to protect you from the rain. And I'm going to leave the prices up on the board in case you want to alter your materials. Tracy, I love it. What can you add to it? How would that work to attach to your hand, or how would it actually protect you from the rain? So if you're done, see what you can add to it. See how you can make it so it's fashionable. Ooh, Kyrie, I see, is building things with sticks and maybe those are paper clips. I can't tell from here, but that looks cool. I like it. Can you add another layer to it? Can you do something else to get the water to spin off?
Wendy, when you spotlight, I'll call them out when you put them on there so we can see. I see Rachel is improvised a little bit. Ayers, Joanne.
Oh,
It's
I
a
love
lot of
the plate
commentary.
racer.
I'm having a hard time hearing, but we've got a bunch of people in here too. So I don't know what you said, Dr. Evans.
I just called you out and said you've got something there. I wasn't sure what
It's beautiful.
it is beautiful.
It looks like the Flying Nun. Do you remember the Flying Nun, or did I just age myself?
It does look like the Flying Nun.
Tell him that we are all together and we're making fun of you.
They are making fun of me.
Tell him me and Tracy's with you.
Okay. I heard somebody in the background there. There's Tracy right there. We saw you, Tracy. Callie had something a minute ago, Wendy, if you want to put it back on her. I see a bunch of people now. Tanya's got one. Uh-oh, Callie, there you go.
I also see people building off of other people's ideas.
Tanya, Rhonda, I see multiple people now that are demonstrating.
Yeah. And I see some people who already ran out of money and they're like, man, I wish I had some more stuff. Which again, remember that standard that was like needs versus wants. That's when you have the discussion with the kid of like, ooh, did you get everything you needed versus things that you just wanted? Because if you put pom-poms out, kids get them even though they're totally useless, but they love them and they're decoration. And then you're like, oh, wish you hadn't spent so much money on pom-poms, don't you? I'm gonna give you guys about 4 more minutes and then we're gonna have some more people share. Oh, I see Skylar. That's a beautiful little hat you've got right there.
Hannah Vaughn also is sharing.
Oh, Kara, I like the idea of just like something over your head. Now, if I saw kids just putting a piece of paper on top of their head, I would challenge them of like, ooh, it's really windy. That's not going to work. What could you do to make it work when it's windy out? Or how could you adapt this? Oh, no, Sierra, you could be an engineer because you are an engineer. You did this. It worked. If I was with older kids, one things I love to do is to talk about supply and demand is I see what supply kids are using most of. So if every kid is coming for tape, then I'm like, ooh, we're running low on tape. Tape just doubled in price, guys. Supply and demand. The thing that's the most in demand, I'm making it the most expensive item now. And so that can be something that you can talk about if you can like actively change prices and make an economy in your system. Or sometimes I have kids trading punch cards and materials to other kids of like, ooh, I bought too much of this. Can you add one of those? So you can adapt this as you go. You can throw in other challenges that are like, hey, you guys have 3 minutes left. Everybody switch with the person next to you and finish their design. That gets kind of complicated and out of the realm of supply and demand or economics, but you know, that's exciting. So I'm gonna give you guys about 1 more minute and I wanna see some more. You guys take a second and look. Tonya, you look gorgeous. I love that. And I love that you built the thing to protect your eyes so the rain doesn't just come off in your face. Yep. You guys laughed when I said 10 minutes. And I will tell you, I usually think that teachers take, it takes kids twice as long as kids. Sorry, the other way. Kids take twice as long as teachers. So if you were struggling in 10 minutes, kids are gonna need 20. Because you guys very quickly decided what you wanted. I know you guys know children, they do not decide this quickly. They spend like an hour coming back up to the front. And I showed you guys how we have it set up on the table with just materials across the board. Does anyone else want to show theirs off? Ooh, Serenity, I see some things going for you down at the bottom. I like this, the ruler, very creative use of materials, a stick-like thing in the middle to hold it up and make your own umbrella. Jennifer, that is lovely. Protecting your eyes and your hair, the most important things. I see that Kelly got hers to attach without her holding it. See, I don't want to have to hold my umbrella in the rain. I want something to get it. And Cindy, you're getting wet and that's okay. Not everyone is going to be successful and that's lovely too. Okay, I'm going to have you guys pause in building. And what I want you guys to think about, again, imagine that you gave students 20 minutes to build and then they all share out and they show what they've done. We're kind of doing a very accelerated version of what I would do with this. But you could do a lot of things now in your debrief. You could talk about if you're trying to get at supply and demand, great. If you're trying to get at those economic standards, if you're trying to get at a writing standard, you could have kids write and talk about what was challenging for you and how did you overcome that challenge? You could have kids talk about my favorite reflection question that I always ask students is like, what are you proud of? And I have them write a few sentences like, what are you proud of about what you built today? And it's always a fascinating answer. I always have one kid who's like, I'm proud that I learned how to tear tape today. Or like, I learned how to use hot glue, if that's something, a material you're giving them. But other kids are really proud that they finished in time or that they came up with a creative idea. And so we love these design challenges because if no matter who your students are, no matter what their background is, no matter where they come from, everybody has gotten wet in the rain before. And so they can relate that to their lives. And then again, if you were doing these history standards, these economics, or if you were doing writing, kids can really relate that content to something in their lives and this challenge they had. So I want you guys to go to our Mind of a Maker. And I want you to look at these. I hope you can see them on your screen and they're not too little. I know sometimes the words are little, but I want you to think about as you we're building. One of our things is we are trying to foster all of these mindsets in kids. I want you to think about during this challenge you just did, what kind of a maker attribute did you use in this challenge? Yes, Jennifer, I was a former science teacher. These are amazing engineering and science standards. You can have kids do pretty much every science standard around building, around different materials, what was stronger, what wasn't stronger, things like that. I'll come back to that in a minute. Look at the mind of the maker, and in the chat, did you guys use any of these attributes today when you were building your design challenge? Skill building. Yeah, some of you guys learned how to actually use the cardboard and learned this new skill of cardboard. I see exploration, imagination. A lot of imagination. You had to come up with a new idea. Initiative, I think, is great because you have that kid who just like never makes their ideas come to life, and they did it here. So now to add to that question, why would you want your students to learn the attribute and practice that attribute that you just did? Why do you want your students to practice perseverance? Sarah, I love that so much. Your daughter came over and said she could do it better and helped. Why would you want this to happen with your students? Why would you want reflection and imagination and teamwork? How would that be helpful to your specific kids? Yeah, they're so quick to give up after one fail, I see. Kyrie wrote. That is like the battle that we fight every day. What else? Why else would these be things? You want to build confidence? Yep. Their skills needed, encourage them to do more, multiple ways to do things. Yeah. One of the things that I love about doing a design challenge like this is that there's no right or wrong. Like you're building a car, you know if your car worked, because if the wheels didn't roll, your car didn't work. But building things like this, you might have to try a lot of different methods. You might have to figure out how to do tape. You guys would be shocked how many 7th graders come to our museum and have never torn a piece of tape before. They all use scissors. And so like learning that skill of tape and imagination is really key. And so we call this a low stakes design challenge. I am not giving them their final project as my first design challenge to be like, hope you guys get it. This is worth half your grade. I'm doing these low stake things that are quick and fun so that students can assess themselves. They can really work through the hard things and they can learn those perseverance in low stakes environments. And so one of the things I wanted to do now before we kind of step back and thinking of making in history or making in the library or making in ELA classrooms is I wanted you guys to take a minute. And if you're in the same room as people, talk about it out loud. If you're not, we're going to put some in the chat. If you were doing a design challenge, and so what I mean by that is our design challenge today was I need to protect myself from the rain. It is a challenge with a goal. I need to build a bridge that can carry a car across it, a toy car. I need to invent a way to get trash out of the water. A challenge that has a goal, but with these common everyday materials. I would love to get some group brainstorming about how you could relate this to your kind of grade and content area. So, you know, we said the one I'm going to put it in the chat now, we said for economic standards, you can do supply and demand simulation, right? So they're actually seeing supply and demand. I would love to get some other people. So take a minute to yourself, put some in the chat of how you could take a simple design challenge and simple everyday materials like the ones that we use today. And how could you guys relate that to your actual classroom and students? Yeah. So actually, like, can you be like talking about ingenuity and innovation? Oh, that could be really cool if you split your class into different areas and gave them different resources and they had to figure out like where to settle based on what resources they need, what to build. That could be a fun like adaptation to this. How about some of my like librarians or ELA people? How could you take something like this? You're reading The Gingerbread Mouse and students have to design a new home for the mouse whose home is destroyed.
One thing that I think that could be done in ELA would be related to the author's purpose and text structure, compare, the relationship. And kids could, I used to put up a picture of like a cliff and where they had to build a bridge or a ladder. And it would demonstrate to the kids that when authors are designing their text, it's very much the same purpose. If we want it to go one way, we have to build, in one way, a ladder or a bridge. Um,
I love
and
that.
that would help kids relate to the text.
Yeah, and what we see time after time and what research shows is that the actual physical act of like reenacting some of these ideas and like physically building them helps make the new neurons so that students remember it. Ooh, Mary's a gym teacher. Physical strength and teamwork. Okay, so my favorite challenge is called this to there. This to there. And it's basically like you have to build a chain reaction to get one thing to another place. And so you can do that with like your gym equipment. You can do that with cardboard. You can make leprechaun traps. That's fun. My kids would love that. But you can literally have kids build different things and they have to pull a lever, things like that. I saw a librarian really recently who had kids build food trucks. Apparently their school had some new food trucks parked nearby and the kids were very excited about it. So each kid had to build a food truck that a character from their favorite novel would want to eat at. And so like if you were, gosh, I don't have a good example. If you were Harry Potter, you might want to make a truck like that, or somebody made a food truck for, I'm totally blanking out. I apologize. I am not feeling fantastic, but that was how she got the kids to basically like extend and put themselves in the mindset of a character of what food truck would they want to be at. So they built like little physical food trucks. They built like little food out of pipe cleaners. Showing the chocolate factory, they could build chocolate and candies, things like that. And so she actually set it up as a station in her library. So it wasn't a required thing. It was her kids go to different stations. They can read books, they can do this. And one station was like build a little food truck. And I thought that was a really cute way to do this. Butterbeer. Thank you, Jennifer. That is the word that I'm trying to think of was butterbeer for Harry Potter. So this is just a taste, a sample of ideas of way to use simple maker learning in your classroom. And I know you guys, I have heard from Wendy and Jim and your team of the like, you guys are all amazing teachers. And so I want you guys to think about, and I put 2 minutes, but that was unrealistically fast. You guys are already doing things to connect new content to students' existing knowledge, existing experiences. And you're already encouraging these hands-on things. But I want you guys to think about, what are you already doing that is connecting this content? Because I'm actually gonna take these off the screen because I want to say one thing. So one thing I love about making is it gives your students choices in how they interact with content. And it gives them opportunities to connect their own lives and experiences to what they're learning in school. My daughter is in 2nd grade and they are learning about measuring, and her teacher has them doing worksheets where they just measure things on worksheets. And she was bored. And so she went around our house and was just measuring all these things around our house and would yell out, "Mommy, the couch leg is this many inches long." And she was measuring her like Lego house or whatever. And it really helped her connect to what she was doing in school. And that is a best learning practice for constructivist learning. Students are actively constructing their learning through hands-on experiential activities. And they're exploring and experimenting and making decisions. And that really helps with critical thinking and ownership. And so I'm going to put the questions back on the board because this is what I want to talk about, is what strategies do you currently use? And why might it be hard to add physically making things to your community? So Jim, I think it was Jim already said that he wished there was more PBL in library. Adam said they wish there was more of a push for PBL in library. Me too. I think that's one thing that's really hard, is that how do you fit this in if there's not already a push for it? What are some things that you guys are currently using, and where do you think it would be difficult to kind of add some of this maker learning into your curriculum? And or what questions or thoughts do you have to share with the group? Take a minute to think, and then if you're ready, we're going to put it in the chat so that we can talk about strategies for connecting to students' lives and how to involve maker learning. Yeah, time. I was hoping somebody was gonna put that, and I knew you guys would not let me down. So one of the things I want you guys to think about, I'm gonna pause for 20 seconds. You guys are putting great things in and I'm gonna read them in a minute. But one of the things I want you guys to think about is when I was a teacher, I saw this as an extra. It was a like, great, we learned this economics. I taught the content, or I was a science teacher. I taught the chemistry. And now I wanna do these hands-on things to help them apply it, to help them show what they learned. And I think that one of the ways to make the time is that this is the way they learn it. Instead of teaching supply and demand first, this is how you teach supply and demand. And then afterwards, you go back and you put the vocabulary to it. So it doesn't have to be a way to tie together learning. It actually could be adding learning. And I know with elementary school, I think there is more flexibility than sometimes the older grades. But if you have so much curriculum that you have to do, thinking of ways of either changing curriculum you already have, which I know none of us have time to do, can be the constraint, right? One of the things that I love to do with this, if I don't have time in the content, is I used to have the first 5 minutes of class was a design challenge. We had random materials that I tossed out that day. Here's pipe cleaners today. And we had a 5-minute design challenge as our like kind of like intro. And that could really help with this. But I know there was no time, and I know that's the biggest constraint. And I think my advice and my experience was, instead of making it an extra, making it sometimes the way that you teach content. And our next session together is going to be, how can you do that? How can you fit this into your curriculum in a way that isn't just solidifying what they already know, but kind of teaching new content? I see design challenges in there. Yeah. Yeah. Worst case, I think D. Daniels is right, indoor recess. Teachers are always looking for something to do at indoor recess. And that could be, so having some of these on hand. And so one of the reasons I like this is we use shoe boxes, like literal shoe boxes, to store our materials here at Kid Museum. And so I can just kind of have a stack of them in the corner of my classroom. And then if we have time, we just toss them out. Jessica's looking at me. Challenge to facilitate multiple students at a time. Oh, to talk about, I see a couple people actually talking about, how do you do this with lots of students at one time? Some of it is starting with simple materials. So if you have 30, I used to have 34 students in my class every single day. Starting with simple materials and adding, I would not have 40 materials out on the table. I would have pipe cleaners, cardboard, and tape as maybe my start, and adding things to that because that makes it easier to facilitate. And I also spend the last like 5 minutes where the kids clean up. I do very little cleanup, and my children are all, and part of that is if you have stuff out in bins, it is very easy to get kids to kind of like quickly toss stuff back in bins. Yeah, I think a common thing is what Rhonda was saying on Fun Friday or other times we can build a challenge, build a tower out of pencils, build a tower out of index cards. This is just a variation on that of the, now can you invent something new instead of building a tower? Art teachers are great. We're doing another session later next week, I think, with some art teachers. So working together with your art teacher, of can they take your history or ELA content and they do the building and you do the reflecting? I love that as well. I think the theme I am seeing is time. And I think attendance is a great time to do things, Fun Friday, if that's a thing, but thinking through strategically, once a quarter, is there content that instead of teaching it a different way, you could do where they make it? We have a 7th grade teacher that we've worked with for a couple of years that was teaching about the Roman Empire. And instead of, oh gosh, I can't remember, it was an essay or something like that, he had his students research the Roman Empire, and they each had to use Tinkercad, which is online design software, and they had to design a picture of a building that was real from the Roman Empire, and that's how we got them to do research instead of writing. And that was a luxury he had. Instead of writing an essay, they could design something instead. But I do love the idea of collaborating with your science teacher, your arts teacher, your librarian who might have time to pull something in to their curriculum of could they integrate your content into a design challenge or a maker challenge where kids are building something. So you're kind of hitting all the birds at one time, all the stones at one time. That's not the right analogy. Jessica's giving me a look, but you guys know what I mean. Does anybody have any questions kind of about this, like philosophy or why you would want to do this or other things that we can answer for you here before we kind of tie it all together? And leave space and airtime if people have thoughts or questions. I'm seeing some really great ideas in the chat. I hope you guys take a minute to read the chat and see some of the ideas that your colleagues are amazingly doing. One of the challenges that somebody put to me privately was that they are hesitant to give their kids scissors because their kids don't always behave well and don't know how to use scissors. And that is the weirdest thing. Coming out of kind of the year where kids did virtual school, kids didn't learn how to use scissors very well. And so it's funny because we now have older kids who are like, I've never done this. And so sometimes while it is challenging, just we have a philosophy at Kid Museum of we trust our kids to use this tools responsibly. And if they're not using responsibly, then they lose access to that tool until they show that they can use it responsibly. And that usually works. They have to learn by practicing and they have to use it and get that opportunity. And so having your trust in your kids that like they will be able to do well. We have very few kids who actually burn themselves with glue guns on purpose or misbehave with scissors. I think the challenge is thinking through the cleanup time and the setup. And I really like those boxes that people are talking about where I can have some stuff ready to go so I can pull it out, build an igloo with hula hoops, things like that. Mary, I think that's a great example of kids really understanding how people would build an igloo, do it with hula hoops. Yeah, we always buy the low temp hot glue guns. Those are the kid ones. They don't get as hot. A list of ideas with materials to help with getting boxes ready. I'm going to pull that into our next session. So we are coming together after winter break, I believe, in the beginning of January. And that session is going to be incorporating making into your curriculum. And so one of the ideas I will do is I will come with kind of our top materials that we love and some of those like boxes and mess and things that you can incorporate into curriculum. And what we're going to do together is do kind of a collaborative whiteboard and brainstorming of ways that you can integrate this into your curriculum. And we're going to do more design challenges together in a different way. Okay. Wendy, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I want you guys to kind of go away with and think about over the next few weeks is one place in your curriculum. Is it Fun Friday? Is it an opening challenge that you want to let kids try? Is it an actual content that you can try something out with making? Where could you bring this into your class in an easy way in the next month? I know it's winter. I know it's busy. See if there's something fast and fun you can do, even if it's just having kids draw as a challenge. Like, can they design something even if they don't build it? See what you can do. And then next time we come together, we're going to talk about that. Like I said, should you guys be coming to DC over the winter break, please come visit us. We would love to see you guys here, and we were excited to see you again. And then I know you guys have a survey to do as well to kind of give us some feedback. And if you have thoughts on things you want us to do next time, etc. I'm going to put my email in the chat for y'all. So if anybody has questions, please feel free to email me. I would love to hear from y'all. Christy, depending on December 21st through 24th, we are open to the public, not every day. We are open to the public just some days, but I think we are open to the public one of those days. We're open every Sunday, and then some of the weekdays, it's on our museum, kidmuseum.org. The person who asked about the Christmas challenge, email me. I have an idea that I'm having trouble articulating, but I will put it out there. And I'm excited that you guys had so much fun. And also, go show your other teachers your fun little hats that you guys built. They're so cute. I love them. I wish I was there with you to try them on myself. I'm going to turn it back to Wendy and Jim, who are going to talk to you about the final survey. Now I'm going to stop screen sharing.
So now you all see why I was so excited. Was that not the fastest hour ever? I feel like at one point I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's already 4:30. Think about the fun that you all just had over the last hour, and then translate that to what your students. Was that not simply the most fun way to learn economics? Honestly. When she did the little thing about, oh, wait, everybody's using tape. Now the price of tape just went up. Is that not the best way for your students to learn supply and demand? I mean, I just think when we had that conversation in Buffalo, I was like, yes, you've got to come and do it for our teachers. So that is one way that we can absolutely bring maker learning into our classrooms. I'm going to put the evaluation in the chat. And you will see that there are a couple of little questions that we've added, and this will go straight to Becky. Their information, there's 2 questions before this session. How familiar were you with maker-centered learning? And then there's another question. How would you rate your confidence and ability to implement maker-centered learning after this session in comparison to before? So we've added those 2 questions. And listen, I agree. This session was absolutely fantastic. We can't wait to see how you're going to use this. And we did, Becky, your Twitter handle, I want to make sure I've got it correct because we put that on, and I want to make sure it's correct. Is it at Kid Museum MD? Is that correct? That the
I'm
correct
trying to
Twitter?
find my mute button. It is definitely something close to that I am. Yes, at Kid Museum NB. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. All right. And so their Twitter handle is on there. So if you are doing those fantastic tweets that I know you all do, make sure you tag them as well. We cannot wait to see what you're doing. If you all use some kind of maker learning over the next little bit, be sure not only in the tweet that you're going to do tonight, but if you are doing some kind of fantastic project, tweet about that and be sure to tag them as well, because you all do the most creative, amazing things in your classroom. And I know they would love to see that learning also, reflected.
I'd love to see it. Please
Yes.
tag us so we can see it.
Yeah. So awesome. If you all have any questions, feel free to stay on. But now you see why I was so excited about this session. We do have several more sessions with them. And I can't wait. This is a great one. Thank you all so much.
Jessica, I stay on if people have questions, but thank you all so much. It was so great to meet all y'all.
It was great. So much. And Becky, I'll be sure to send the survey data and all that to you. So, and we'll
Appreciate it, Wendy. Thank
it
you.
was
My
great.
My
was so
research
much
team
fun.
always loves seeing it.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
For those of you that are still on here, I know that you're still receiving some Dropbox